there. Welcome to the Sisterhood of the Traveling Bantha. We are your hosts, Denise
and Rexy, and we are recording with special support from Council Member Mark Collier.
And we're broadcasting from our galaxy to yours.
May the force be with you.
Always. Recording for the podcast. I decided to go live today and talk.
Heard.
What is up, Heard?
How's it going? We're here for two?
Yeah, take two.
Take one, take two?
Yeah, take two.
What am I doing?
Our discussion
We're here for two.
of The Living Force, the book by John Jackson Miller.
It was pretty unusable. The audio was pretty bad.
Which sucks because we did have a special guest,
I
Michael
know.
Beavers.
Thank you again
Michael.
for coming and being a guest with us, and I'm sorry the audio was bad.
But we are here to talk about the book. We both really enjoyed the book.
Yes, it's so much fun with it. Maybe we should also mention we are live right now on Denise's TikTok, so if you see us maybe talking off camera or whatever, yeah, sorry. Just us in here.
So, okay, yeah, The Living Force.
The Living
Force. It's been a very long day.
By John Jackson Miller, and we have read one other book by him?
Something Gone. With Tara and Kanan.
Right. I don't remember.
I can look it up on my phone. So.
Well, anyway, that book, and we really liked that one too.
But he's also written books in the EU, the Legends.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's written books in the Legends. This is his second book, I believe, for the canon side of things. So he knows his Star Wars. Yeah. He has a feel for the characters.
He's got such a fun writing style too, and it came through in The Living Force. Like, I giggled and I laughed. There's so much of this book.
There was a lot of characters that I was so happy to see, but I love that we start off with Qui-Gon calling. Oh, by the way, spoilers if you haven't read the book yet.
Oh my gosh, yeah. If you haven't read the book, go away and read it, and then come back because we are going to drop spoilers.
Yes. So I love that we get Qui-Gon calling out the council member saying, essentially saying you guys have lost touch. We need to get back out and go not deal with people, but get on the people's level and interacting with the people and not just be so political and just working with the Senate. We need to embrace the public that we're here to promote peace with. And
have some one-on-one interactions. Get to know them. Let them get to know us. He was standing in the middle of this, and we do hear at one point in one scene, we hear them talk about how intimidating it is to be speaking to the council, and that it's meant to be, it's set up so that everyone is equal, but when you're in the middle of it, everyone is in a circle staring at you. So there's Qui-Gon in the middle of this with everyone staring at him, and he's just like, listen, all of you.
But they also, I think,
do better.
Talked about Qui-Gon. Was it Qui-Gon? Where he was offered to be on the council, but turned it down.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he was intimidated by him, which is why he felt so at ease.
I don't mean him, but there was another book that we read where somebody else was having to address the council, and they were talking about how intimidating it was.
Oh yeah,
because they're in a circle around you and everyone's staring at you.
Yeah.
So I took that and I'm thinking about I'm picturing Qui-Gon in the middle of this, right? The entire council staring at him, and he's just like, all of you, do better. All of you.
But that's such a Qui-Gon thing.
I know. At one point, we even get what would Qui-Gon do? Remember? We get that. What would Qui-Gon do? What would Qui-Gon do in this situation? And I love that, man. Even the council members look up to him. Makes it pretty bad.
I feel like it's because he has a very unique perspective on how he views things, and I think he realizes not everything is black and white. There's a little bit of gray, and you can't be so
rigid.
Yeah,
and you have to be flexible. You have to be adaptable.
And also that he realizes we're not supposed to be political. We're not supposed to be just working with the Galactic Republic. Yeah, we are the Galactic Republic at this point.
At this point,
I keep
okay.
going back and forth between the
I'm
High
so
Republic
bad
and
with the timeline because of all of this. Like, yeah.
Yes, Kevin, the council would be intimidating.
I think so too, and I think that they shouldn't be.
And
they shouldn't be, but they are.
And well, these are the top Jedi. Like, and authority is always intimidating.
I know, yeah, but that's another thing. Is like they shouldn't really be authority either. They've kind of evolved into these authority figures.
That's a democracy,
right? Like, I think they're supposed to be
a board of directors meeting,
mediators and peacekeepers and like connectors, but they evolved into this.
But you also can't
political
have something that large without people running it,
right?
And so, like Kevin was saying,
unfortunately, people are always going to be tempted to power.
And like Kevin said, a board of directors.
Yeah.
Board of directors is a great way to
council is the board of the directors for the Jedi.
Is a perfect way to do it. But I was really surprised during this scene that of all the Jedi that jumped onto this idea, it was Mace Windu. And
no.
And it blew my mind because I always see Mace Windu as like, well, you know what? He's very by the books and very by the rules. So going out and helping people,
kind of Yord-ish.
Yeah, kind of. Going out to help people would make sense that he would jump onto it.
Because that's one of their tenets. That's something that they're supposed to be doing anyway. And he pushed for that. Like, some really people were kind of, a little bit standoffish. And he was like, no, this is a good idea. And you know what? We're all going.
Yes, we're all going
field trip.
We're all going to a planet. And we're all going to go separate ways. Not just taking, like, they took public transportation to this planet and interacted with the public.
And they all got involved with different individual stories and helped people in all kinds of like amazing and kind of hilarious ways. Like we had marriage counseling
from a Jedi,
from Yoda, right? Was it Yoda? Was it Yoda playing?
Somebody was giving advice to the OnlyFans character. No, she was a dancer, I think, or something. She was a lady of the night.
Escort, something in that vein, right? They
he was like, you're better than this, and he actually like created a friendship with her. And he was like, I'm gonna miss our talks. So like, it was so funny because they were so out of touch. They didn't realize that people were struggling.
Yeah,
because they lived in their castle on Coruscant.
And if you don't leave, then you don't see. And they really weren't leaving. They were sitting up in their little tower, like making political decisions and having discussions, but not helping them.
And that's what they were saying. They were doing less and less missions out into the field. Because if you go from the High Republic, the Golden Age, to this time era, in the High Republic, they were constantly going out.
Yes.
They had Jedi outposts everywhere. And this book was talking about they're closing down these Jedi outposts on all these different planets.
And these outposts are hope to people. They're symbols of hope and freedom, and they're coming in and they're being taken away, and no like plans to rebuild them, and no plans to install anything else having to do with the Jedi. And the people are just like, what? Why? Why are you abandoning us?
Yeah, they were feeling very abandoned by the Jedi, and which is so interesting.
Kevin says, as a journeyman, I feel for the Jedi Masters training just apprentices, just like Jedi apprentices.
Like he teaches.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
I got you. Okay.
But I was really sad to hear about these outposts closing because I like the idea of them being these like frontiermen,
right,
out in space, like.
And that's what they were. They were going out, they were making connections, they were having friendships,
and they were
built up with people, and then they were learning how to help them. And there was not so, like, we find this out in the High Republic books, there was not so much council oversight. Like, if a Jedi felt like they needed to do something, they would inform the council or, like, their master, whoever it was, they would inform them and be like, hey, this is what I'm being called to do, this is what I'm doing. But they didn't necessarily ask for permission, and they weren't shut down. They were trusted to do the thing they thought was best.
And I felt like they were more in tune with the Force and where the Force like led them to go, like you were saying. But
and less like we're gonna use the Force as a tool to accomplish these things, but we're gonna actually base our decisions on policy.
Yes. And at this point, everything, it was almost like they were, I think, probably going back and forth with the Senate and telling them what they were doing, because the Senate was also giving them suggestions on which outposts to close out, which planets to step back from. And so in that aspect, when they go, I can't remember the name of the planet, I should have brought my book. They go and they see the impact it has on not only the economy, but the way of life, tourism, but with all these planets,
all of the people are just like, okay, we know you're not even here anymore, but like, why are you completely
they're losing jobs, they're losing infrastructure, they're losing trade, they're losing the money coming through. Like, tourism is a big way for planets to generate funds, to bring people to their planets, which then creates jobs. And when you don't have the Jedi there, with the Jedi leaving, it also meant that, I feel like it also meant that the Republic was leaving that planet as well, because there's no kind of representative there at all. And so everybody was just leaving and leaving.
Or maybe they already had, because before they came in and shut down the temple, the Jedi really weren't there anymore anyway.
And even then, I feel like, too, at this point, the Republic, the senators...
Kevin says, the High Republic, they were top of their game.
Yes.
By Mace Windu's era, they are in the death throes of the Republic.
I also, you can even tie this into Tales of the Jedi, when Qui-Gon and Count Dooku, because I think at this point in the book, Count Dooku is still a Jedi. Because
he would have to be. He would have to be.
But
that would have been interesting had we gotten like some references or something. That would have been fun.
But Dooku and Qui-Gon in Tales of the Jedi, they go to a planet to go save a senator's son that was kidnapped. And I wonder if this interaction was one of the things that started planting the seed for Qui-Gon to question things. Because he gets there and they see that everybody on this planet is like living in poverty,
they're
struggling. But the senator is living on Coruscant in these lavish apartments.
All the food he wants, safety and warmth. And his people are dying, starving to death.
So I'm thinking that Qui-Gon and Dooku, seeing this, it plants the seed for Qui-Gon that eventually leads to this, because he saw how they were being treated. Because the senators are all off in their own world, and I think that's
just completely out of touch.
And I think
that's
what's happening.
Is
they're not going back home to their planets. Now the Jedis aren't going back home. What Coruscant is seeing going on the planets is completely different than what is truly happening on all these different planets.
Right. Well, these people up in Coruscant, like the senators and the Jedi, like they have food, they have warmth, they have shelter, they have clothes, and the people back on the planets are starving and, either freezing or burning to death, depending on the planet you're talking about.
It's almost like Star Wars is political.
Oh my god. No. Oh, I'm sorry. Star Wars has never been political.
On one of our TikToks the other day, somebody made a comment and said, "You two look like you would be political." And I'm like, dude, Star Wars has been and will always be political. It is Star Wars.
I missed that comment.
There's wars going on without being mistreated.
You look like you two would be political. You know what? Thanks.
I
appreciate the compliment. We are. We have opinions. Loud, big ones.
But so, it's nice to see, again, it all goes back to Qui-Gon questioning and having that different view.
And pushing for them to also have different views and go out and do things about it.
He went about it the correct way, where Dooku did not go about it correctly.
They both had the right idea. Killed a bunch of people.
Dooku.
Murder's usually not the right way to go about it.
Two different ways.
Lavish parties versus slavery. Yep.
happen a lot in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So they get to this planet, and the people here, what is it? People are losing their jobs to droids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because that was one of the stories. Was the taxi?
They thought they were under attack.
Who was it? Somebody was playing taxi driver. Or they weren't. They were kind of playing taxi driver, but they were also playing mediator between like the droids who were being installed as the taxi drivers and the former taxi drivers who were being pushed out by the droids. And in the middle of it, these couple of Jedi Masters are being the taxi driver.
And they think they're under attack because people are trying to take down the droids because they want their jobs back.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, they hate the Jedi. They're attacking the Jedi. No, they're not attacking the Jedi.
They do eventually figure out what's going on, but like,
they're like, what?
Like, Plo Koon and
oh,
who was he partnered up with?
I don't know. Who's the guy with the tall head? He was there too. No, Socrates is not. But
no,
he
wasn't.
Referenced later in the book.
Love. Yeah, that's right. He was, but that I wasn't. Anyway, Plo Koon was paired up with another Jedi Master, and they were basically mechanics. They were just trying to fix the starship.
But
hey, platypus!
It just was like it's just so comical. But even like the people who are still living there, like even Yaddle when she was talking to because she was there to be the voice of the Jedi. I love Yaddle. Yaddle is like my favorite, you guys. I go through favorite characters all the time. And okay, side note, I am in phase 2 of the High Republic, and Yaddle's in it.
Makes me happy. I just started phase 2. Just finished the first book of phase 2.
Yaddle is in phase 2, and she is such a delight. And Yaddle just...
That makes me really happy.
She's so great, and I love the fact that they make sure she doesn't talk like Yoda, because I don't think people would love Yaddle as much if she talked like Yoda.
Yeah.
But
that makes sense.
So like she's so calm.
Yeah, she's poised and
so insightful.
Why she ended up being on like all of the TV. She gave like one interview and they were like, all right, you're the face of the Jedi.
And I think she's okay with that. She was more of a diplomatic Jedi rather than a combat Jedi.
Right. Yeah.
And,
although we do see in Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi, that she is
she can fight. She can handle herself, but she would much rather use words, battle with words, than with a lightsaber. And we can see here that she's very good with inspiring. Like she inspired the one girl who was working with the media.
Yeah, and she was all like kind of cowed behind because the bosses she works for were just like insane and overbearing and horrible. And she finally struck out on her own and was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm doing my own.
And she helped set her up to be successful. Talking about setting people up to be successful. So there were Jedi like pirates that were not Jedi pirates that were there that wanted to take down the Jedi.
Yes.
Because they
I know what you meant. We do have to have enemies.
Not Jedi pirates, but pirates against Jedi. Yeah.
Pirates against Jedi, like Cards Against Humanity, Pirates Against Jedi.
Goodness, I've not played that game in so long. But they were against the Jedi because children.
Mm.
Yes,
because that came up really big. There was another big argument about like the Jedi stealing children.
They don't steal children. They do not steal children. They recruit children.
And they ask permission. They talk to the families.
But I feel
like they are supposed to. But Sifo Dyas went a little bit bananas in his West. Yes.
And okay, so that was what led to this. So this pirate lived in an orphanage with his 2 friends. Yeah, and one of them seemed to have was force sensitive.
Yeah.
And Sifo Dyas came to recruit them and said, hey, oh, this other kid might have it. Took these kids. Not
They were in an
recruited.
orphanage, so
So
basically,
they
asked the orphanage droid, like, it was a droid that was running this orphanage, and the droid was basically just like, yes, please, take them, I can't feed them anymore. And they just left the one kid behind.
And his whole world just kind of
that was all he had. Those friends, like, those kids with him were his only friends, and they took everybody but him.
In the orphanage, he was kind of had to just fend for himself, and he didn't have any support because
every bit of his friends were gone.
And that's where they.
And the droid was like breaking down, if I remember right. Like it wasn't doing so hot.
It was on its last leg. But that's where we learned that there is a process, and he didn't go about it correctly. They do keep an eye out for these force-sensitive children.
Mm-hmm. And they said, as soon as they found out what he was doing,
they kicked him off
the council and told him he wasn't allowed to recruit anymore.
Yeah. Which is good that they did take actions to punish. No, he stepped off. Didn't he step off because he didn't like being either? Did he?
No. I know that they told him he couldn't recruit anymore. That might be what made him step off the council.
Yeah. But they talked about, they do keep an eye out. That's why you put on sunblock.
I did. I put on so much.
But they're supposed to ask the parents, and they have a discussion, and then the parents then decide, yes, we're going to let you recruit our child, or no, we're not going to. And they're supposed to honor those wishes of the family. That's still
in the case of the orphanage, there wasn't any. It was just that droid. And Sifo Dyas should have taken the other kid.
Well, and that was the thing. They were, if a situation like that was to happen, they were supposed to set up the people, the family, for success to make sure everybody was taken care of and nobody was just abandoned. Mm-hmm. I think at this point, Disney is really trying to fix this concept that Jedi.
I think so too, because they're hitting it pretty hard in these episodes and the books and the episodes of the Acolyte. Like they're hitting that pretty hard.
We got the Acolyte, we got the Living Force. They talked about it in the High Republic. I think it all stemmed because of that one episode in the Clone Wars where where Palpatine hired Cad Bane to go take all the Force-sensitive children. Mm-hmm. And so we learned that they had these holocrons with all the names of all these children, and so it made it seem like we just go and take them when they're really young.
But that was Palpatine.
Well, no, but they never really talked about the Jedi. It just seemed like they had a list of young kids that they go and take, and they bring them into the council.
So that would have been a good reason that people are like, oh, they just kidnapped them.
Because if you rewatch the episode, it's just like, oh, we just get these kids when they're really young, but that's not the case. They
but the rest of the movies, I guess if you had only seen the show.
Nobody talks, but they don't even talk about it in the movies, the recruitment process.
They don't, I guess our only little bit is the conversation that Qui-Gon has with,
for Anakin, he's old.
Yeah. That's
he's too old, but so they would recruit children between the ages of 4 and 6 or 7.
Yeah, they try to get them before they have too many attachments and memories.
But they do have some memories of family members, which is very interesting to learn, especially while reading books now. A lot of Jedis will talk about having memories of their home world and having a sense of pride from coming from these different planets,
but not so many attachments that they're depressed about not being with their family,
or
most of the time.
Not so many attachments to, this is taking it to the extreme, where they'll let something bad happen here to save these 2 people from this planet, because that's what they're trying to avoid recruiting very young, is they want them to think about the full greater good instead of just being like, oh, I'm just going to save my family and kind of.
Which is kind of what nature would be, is you save the people close to you. Of course, I think most people would try to save other people if possible.
I think so.
But first, you're going to reach for your friends, your family.
Yeah. And so they want to have to take that attachment away in case it comes down to some of those really hard situations.
Yeah.
They're not
that way,
attached in that
sense. This is my choice. This is the only option.
Yeah. And so, and that was a nice little chat about Jedi recruitment. But it was very nice to have a Sifo Dyas name drop in there.
That was interesting, and to be like, oh, there's a little nugget of backstory we didn't have on
Yeah, I'm saying because have we really seen him much in like anything? We hear stories. We know he was the one that started the clone troopers. He was kind of a
Right.
rogue Jedi who did what he wanted.
But we don't
Um,
know much about him. I think he might be an interesting show to have. Just be like, strap a camera and follow around Sifo Dyas. Be like, what the hell is he getting up to? How about, oh my gosh, I have an idea. What if it's like one of those, a season where it's like kind of a back-to-back different perspective kind of things, where it's like, here's an episode of Sifo Dyas, here's an episode of Saw Gerrera, here's an episode of Sifo Dyas, here's an episode of Saw Gerrera.
More Saw Gerrera.
They're both just like so zealous. Like, I think it would be a really interesting show.
What is our favorite Jedi skill?
Oh,
That's a random question. I think I like healing. Not many have it. Yaddle does.
does she?
Yes,
The
she
healer?
does. Which makes sense. She's a nurturer.
I really like, I think, the empathic abilities.
Baraga.
When you find, Baraga, when you know that you can feel, right? Like, feel what somebody is feeling and help to those a little bit. And we find it in Burry, and we find it in Ram. Is it Ram, the kid?
No, it's not Ram.
One of those kids, isn't it? That like has
It's
that,
one of the kids.
and they're like, you can't just do that. But I love that ability.
Ram's annoying.
He's a good kid, but he's a little kid.
He was the one that built the droid.
Yeah.
To go race up the mountain.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite. The empathic, the ability to kind of read feelings.
Do you think with the living force that these Jedi's going to the planet and interacting made any kind of a difference?
Not probably much in the long run, but in the individual lives of these people, yeah. And because of that, I mean, we think about, maybe they did make a bigger difference because they made individual differences in, like, the droid versus human taxi, right? So that's going to have farther reaches.
But what about their perspective on closing all these Jedi temples and not being as involved?
Which one?
Like the council members that all go to this planet.
Oh, you mean, do you think it made a difference in them?
Yeah.
Maybe. I would find it difficult because they seem to be sometimes very slow to make decisions.
Yeah.
I could see them being like, hold on, let's think about it for a while.
Let's meditate on this.
Yeah, I mean, hell, the temples might crumble before they come up. I do think that it probably made a difference in them each individually in the way that they will continue
and
to
maybe
use the Force, use their abilities, and help people. But I don't know if it made a big difference in the council as a whole.
Yeah, I think individually, some of them may have had a different view on things. Definitely Yoda, but Yoda's like the exception to everything. I feel like Yaddle, maybe Plo Koon, because he's kind of more of a. I feel like from the Clone Wars, Plo Koon's more empathetic towards people than some of the other ones.
Plo's one of my favorites. And man, I know he doesn't have anything to do with anything we're talking about right now, but man, Kit Fisto. He will always have just like this little place in my heart. I love him so much. And that poor character. Just,
yeah.
He died hard.
What do you think about finding out that Yoda was in on this plan with Qui-Gon to call out? I did not see that one coming.
Oh, I didn't either. Because he was initially kind of like hesitant about it, right?
So Yoda's got a devious side, and I love it because we definitely see it in this book. Because like he worked with Qui-Gon, and he's like, our plan worked out perfectly. It did. Like, and it would make sense that
delightful
that Qui-Gon and Yoda would come like up with this plan because they are on the same Jedi lineage.
Yes,
we have
Yoda is another like gray Jedi if we're talking about that.
Gray Jedi don't exist. Wayseekers.
Wayseekers, that's right. Yoda would be Can we call Yoda a Wayseeker since he didn't leave though?
No,
he just follows his own.
He's more open to the Force, I think, than others instead of just being so like, this is how it is.
Okay. Why don't we call them Gray Jedi?
That was never a thing.
Was it?
It was never a thing. It was a fan.
Oh, I know, but that's still like basically the term for it, right? If it's like not
It was
black and
never
white,
even
it's
in
gray.
like. It was never even in like the books. It was never ever
Really?
referenced. It was a fan made up thing.
So what do you call them then? Because we can't call them way seekers because they're not way seekers if they don't leave.
No,
but Yoda's different, right? Like Yoda and Qui-Gon and Dooku are
they're just different. They're more free thinkers, I think. They're just
we don't have a name for them.
no. Orla is a way seeker. I bawled my eyes out. I think they're just more
heavy,
more in tune with their surroundings instead of just
and maybe themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because and especially that whole lineage, we got Yoda to Count Dooku to Qui-Gon to Kenobi to Anakin to
Ahsoka. You know.
Even Luke was trained into that.
Yep.
Even Rey was.
They don't all
trained.
become Jedi. Some of them leave to do their own things, but they all are trained in that. Use your own brain. Like, use your own information, your own eyes and ears. Like, yes, trust the people who are bringing you information, but trust yourself and trust the Force.
More than anything else.
Right. Don't just blindly follow orders.
Yeah. Please don't blindly follow orders.
No, please don't.
We can't talk tonight. But so with all that said, I think the biggest mic drop in this whole book was when we found out that Palpatine was all the Jedi temples that were being closed. He was taking all the artifacts, and especially the dark side artifacts, and I was just
hoarding them all.
Palpatine, and nobody knew because he paid these people off not to tell anybody, so he was secretly collecting all this dark side stuff and Jedi lore. So
which has that explains some of how he got so fluffing powerful. He has everything.
Smart.
Yeah. He studied years and decades to read and study these artifacts and tools.
It wasn't just he didn't just study the dark side. He made sure he understood the light side with it, so he could
everything.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't have a face anymore.
The sun is brutal.
Oh, yes, it is. There we go. Let's stand back here. There were just really funny spots, really moving spots. I just really liked it.
It was a great book, and I love because we don't have too many books right before the prequel eras. We got a lot after the prequels. We got several during the original. We got several post Empire. And we got a ton of great High Republic stuff.
They're so good. And they're still coming.
Palpy is an estate cell, Karen. Yes.
Oh, he is.
Heaven.
Good job. Palpy is an estate sale, Karen. He just, that's mine. No, that's mine.
Mine.
Oh, no.
But yeah, I love that we got more of this before the prequels. And I like that.
And more individual council member stories. It gives you a good glimpse of their personalities and how they deal with things.
And a lot of them. There's obviously in Star Wars characters that are more favored than others that are highlighted. You got the Qui-Gons, you got the Obi-Wans, you got the Skywalkers.
Sure.
You got Ahsoka, the clones.
But we got some of the side ones too. We got more stories about Mace. We got stories about Plo Koon. We got stories about Sifo Dyas. Not good stories, but we got stories.
But it's nice to continuously expand the whole Star Wars universe. I love it. Yeah. But I enjoyed it.
I did too.
What would you rank it out of how many stars would you give it?
5. I dug it. I giggled and I cried and I had a great freaking time with it.
I think I would give 4.5.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was blast.
Yeah, I think 4.5. I enjoyed it. So with all of that, from our galaxy to yours,
may the Force be with you
always. Thank you, Kevin, for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Sisterhood of the Traveling Bantha, written and produced by Denise McKay.
Edited and produced by Rexy Jupiter. Original logo designed by Tyler Rigney.
Intro and outro music is provided by the Galactic Empire.
You can find us on all streaming platforms at Travel and Bantha.
And join our Discord for fun filled galaxy chats.
You can also sign up for our Patreon starting at just $3. You get exclusive episodes, merch, behind the scenes, and more.
And a special thanks to all our Jedi Knight members and higher. We have Rooney, Michael Beavers, Mark Collier, and James Peak. From our galaxy to yours,
May the force be with you.
Always.